Hello, this is a video for IME 315, Financial Decision Making for Engineers at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. This particular video talks about the various kinds of evaluation methods. So if we look at the 5 topics that are covered in this class, this particular topic falls under investment analysis. So there's generally 5 different evaluation techniques that people use to judge if a project is good or if a set of projects, which is the best one to invest in. So if you remember back when we talked about alternative analysis, we talked about mutually exclusive alternatives. And these evaluation techniques required that the alternatives you're comparing are mutually exclusive. So we're going to go through each of these, and although we've been sort of talking a little bit about some of these methods like net present value and rate of return previously in this class, I'm going to kind of go through formally and explain the various methods. And then in addition, there's other videos that actually go through examples. So Payback is the first one we're going to look at, and this is a very common method that small companies use to answer the question, how long will it take to get my money back? And the units, the answer to Payback is years. So it could be, or months, it's some sort of time period. It could be, we're going to get this back in 3 years, we're going to get this back in 6 months. But the evaluation technique is looking at payback, and it's particularly how quickly can we get the money back. This is for companies that are kind of cash strapped, if they actually need the money and are concerned about cash flow, and maybe they've come up against their borrowing limit. This is something they would very much use. The next method is the net present value, and this particular method is the best method to use, and it's what most sophisticated companies use when they're evaluating investments. And the question they're trying to ask is, what is the added value to the firm right now if we do this project? So if you remember, we talked about the stock market and how it anticipates what companies are doing or what markets are doing. And in this case, if you make an investment and it's going to be a good investment, the stock price could go up immediately. So you've seen this before when a company has talked about releasing a new product. Well, they haven't actually, like Apple, if they release a new iPhone, their stock price goes up, and they haven't actually gotten the income from that, but the companies anticipate, the stock market is anticipating that this will increase the value of the company. And many people think one way to get the particular value that the stock is going to go up is to think about the net present value, or to calculate net present value. So the units of this is dollars. The next method is equivalent annual cost or benefits. This is very similar to net present value. We convert everything, instead of in net present value, convert everything to time period 0. In equivalent annual cost or benefit, we convert everything to an equivalent A value. So you can see at the top that cash flow that's kind of varied depending on period. It's converted to an equal annual payments. And this is useful sometimes because people think in terms of dollars per year when you're thinking about a loan payment or income or things like that. So this evaluation method is useful for that. Another evaluation method is rate of return. So in this case, the question you're answering is, what is the interest rate I'm earning on this investment? So you see this cash flow here, it had a small investment, a little bit of return, a little bit more, and then in the future it had a higher return. And the question is, well, what is an equivalent rate of return per year that I'm getting on this investment? And this is useful because you can compare it to the cost of borrowing, like how much money does it cost you to borrow from a bank, or you can look at other particular investments that you might make that have similar risk and judge this particular investment against that. This is a very common method, although it's often used a bit incorrectly. Although companies do it all the time, just academically, there's some mistakes that are easy to make with this particular method. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is benefit cost ratio. In this, we're looking at a ratio of benefits and cost instead of the difference between benefits and costs. And this is often used in public service companies because benefits are sort of hard to quantify. So they use sort of a ratio associated with this. And the units of this is that this ratio should be greater than 1. Obviously, the benefits need to be greater than the costs. So in this class, we're going to be looking at payback, net present value, and rate of return. We're not going to do a calculation for equivalent annual cost or benefit cost ratio. So this little video was an introduction to evaluation methods that falls into the concept included in investment analysis.